Guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about how to deal with the Sunday scaries for brand new medical coders. If you're brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. Okay, guys, what is Sunday scaries? Sunday scaries is it's a phrase or whatever you want to call it. But basically what it is like pre-Monday anxiety. Like you start to get really nervous about your job and you start to like dread it, and it happens Sunday. Sunday is when it hits. And you start feeling that overwhelming sense of dread for Monday. And then you get yourself all worked up. Sometimes some people, it literally keeps them in bed all day. Some, they just can't help but have those like their heart racing, that feeling all day long. And it really does impact people's time with their family or their loved ones, and people around them can sense this. But how do we stop this from happening? All right. So I did get a comment from a viewer. So I'm going to read the comment and then we're going to get into it. So here we go. All right. So the viewer says, I have been in AR for over 25 years. I finally took the CPC course online and passed the exam in July of 2021. I continued with AR until a few months ago when the doctors in the practice I work for merged with a new company. I was put into the coding group. I am struggling. I turned 50 this year and I've never had an issue with work. I have never been anything other than excellent at my job. I have so much anxiety. It's Sunday afternoon, and the anxiety is already building. My accuracy has been pretty good. My very first week, I was at a 74%, and the second week, I went up to 90% and above. I literally started crying on a video call with my manager because I feel like I'm not doing well. She told me I was too hard on myself. What can I do to be more comfortable? I don't know how much longer I can feel so anxious every day. My training team is fabulous. I feel at times that I ask questions I should know the answer to. My volume needs to increase as well. The specialty is interventional radiology, dialysis, circuit interventions, etc. Any suggestions are so greatly appreciated. Okay, so here's the thing. First of all, I think you need to count your blessings first. In a situation like this, where this person is brand new and starting it, but they've already been, around the people and things like that, and then all of a sudden they're being transferred to this new department. Of course, it's new. And of course, everything is going to be like, oh my gosh, there's all these things. But you have so many blessings that are like literally in front of your face that I think you need to recognize them. You need to recognize that you say in your own words that your training team was fabulous and that you took the course and you passed your test last year. So it takes some skill to be able to do that. This is not something that you can just study for a couple of weeks and then you get your certification. No, it takes effort. So I think that what you're experiencing here is being brand new to a field that is completely separate from what you were doing before. So with that in mind, you need to cut yourself a break because if you get yourself all worked up, it literally does, it is a useless emotion and it does you no good. It does nobody any good around you either. And all it's going to do is make you feel like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, and that really has to stop. Not to minimize what you're going through or what any new medical coder is going through, because we all went through this, right? Not to minimize that, but at the same time, do not let that get in your way. It's okay to accept those feelings, acknowledge them, and move on from them. And how do we get better? How do we combat this nervous feeling every time we go into this workplace? Every time we go to start doing our work, how do we combat this? And I'm going to tell y'all something that a lot of y'all don't want to hear. Study the book. Study your book. All of the workbooks that I've been saying, all the times that I've challenged you guys twice now to read the coding guidelines. I know some of you are doing it, and I love seeing those blue hearts. We are in the second round of the coding guidelines challenge. I started it in October, challenging the people to read the ICD-10 CM coding guidelines once a week, and that way you have read it 4 times by the end of the month. A lot of you dropped out after the first week. Oh, Blue, I couldn't keep up with it. Well, how do I get better? That's exactly how you get better, by sticking with a goal. So start by saying, okay, I'm going to start reading these coding guidelines. Because even though you think, oh, that doesn't apply to me, interventional radiology and all this other stuff, dialysis that you're doing, there's a lot of things that are covered in those guidelines. And it helps if you know what's going on. So I recommend starting there. Start reading your coding guidelines once per week. It's going to take additional time other than the time that you're at work in order for you to improve and get better. But it's a small investment of a couple of hours here and there, so that way you can get to that feeling where you're starting to feel more confident. You're going to be able to code faster because you're going to be able to recognize things quicker. Now, even though you have your credential already, it doesn't mean that you can't work with the workbooks, the coding workbooks, the ICD-10-CM and ICD-10-PCS coding handbook with the answers that I always recommend from the American Hospital Association. The link is in the description box below. The CPC study guide, again, another resource that I leave in the description box below. And it doesn't matter if you have a CCS, CCA, or a CCSP, you can still study with the CPC study guide, because all that's in the CPC study guide is all CPT coding. So that's something that you can use to supplement your studies. And that way you don't feel confused and you don't feel like you're asking questions that you should know the answer to in the viewer's words. So when you're doing that as well, here's another thing too. Whenever I train somebody new, right, I'm very patient when it comes to training people because I love medical coding and I want people to get it the right way. And so, but when I'm helping a person and they don't take notes and they come back to me and they keep asking me the same question, I get a little impatient. By a little impatient, I mean a lot impatient, because I'll let it slide maybe the first 1 or 2 times. But after that, I'm going to ask, where's your notebook? Where did you write it down when I told you the last time? Okay, you didn't write it down. You don't remember. You forgot. Okay, then now you got to figure it out on your own. And some people always say, oh, Blue, that's mean. Y'all can think that I'm mean all you want to. That's all right. But my job here isn't to always be so nice to you, because when you get out into the real world, you're going to experience things. You're going to experience coworkers. You're going to experience providers who are not going to give you any slack. All right. And you have to learn to be strong, and you have to learn to be tough. So having that mindset of, I don't know if I can do this and how am I going to, then just take a step back and look at everything around you. This person has good coworkers that will help her. She's got great, trainers and things like that. Rely on the training information that they gave you. Make sure that you're writing down notes so that you're not asking questions that maybe you feel like you should already know. Learn how to do your research. Consult the CPT manual, the ICD-10-CM manual, or go on Google. It is as simple as putting in your question into Google. Now, Google can answer anything. Trust me. There are a lot of questions that I even get in the comments, and some of them are so basic that I don't answer them anymore because that's a simple Google search. Literally a simple Google search. So again, I would encourage everybody who's feeling like this and who's saying, well, I'm just a new kid on the block and I get so nervous and I just don't know what else to do and I don't know how to help myself. Go back to the basics. Go back to the workbooks. Work through the workbooks. Don't just order them and then stare at them in the corner. You need to actually work with them. You can make a promise to yourself to work on a chapter a week. That is really slow. But if it's the time that you can fit in, and please don't tell me, Blue, I work a 40-hour-a-week job, I don't have time to study. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Because if it's important to you, you will study. It's not like in the beginning when you were, trying to learn everything, medical terminology, anatomy, pathophysiology, and then all of a sudden now you're just trying to do all these things. You have all of that out of the way. Now it's just honing your coding skills. That's what you need to concentrate on. So just working with the workbook, getting your ICD-10-CM manual. Hopefully you're using the Optum 360 ICD-10-CM manual, because in that book, it has the breakdown of, in every single chapter, it's got examples of how these diagnoses apply and what is the rationale for those things. And I tell people, get that book and read it. Oh, well, no, Blue, they got excuses for everything. These books, the Optum books on Optum360coding.com, they're on sale, the 2022 editions. So if your facility has another kind and they didn't give you those, if you're just wanting to get practice, use the 2022 editions, all right? So that way you can look at those, you can get some practice, you can look through the whole book, so that way you can see those little coding tips, because that's what Optum likes to do, and that's why I trust Optum. I love Optum. I will always recommend Optum, although this is not an ad for them. I would talk about them for free all day long. And the same thing if you are coding for the inpatient side of the house, like the facility side, ICD-10 PCS. They have an excellent book. Optum does. It has in the back, it has in the appendix section, Appendix M like in Mary, it has it has hundreds of procedure codes that you can look up. And then in Appendix N, like in Nancy, it's got the answer key. So that way you can check and see, and you can test yourself. And then you can work on, okay, well, working on the approach, or working on the body part of the body system, or whatever. Whatever is giving you trouble. That's the only way you're going to be able to combat this feeling of feeling so lost and out of control. Because there is no shortcuts. The long way is the fast way. And that's what I'm saying. Rick, another YouTuber, he has his own channel, Think Like a Horse. He talks about that all the time. The slow way is the fast way, right? You got to take things slow. You got to learn it slow in order to get faster. And if you're trying to cut some of that time out and, just give me the little shortcuts and just give me the little, the cheat sheets. Those cheat sheets are no good for medical coders because they stunt your growth, especially if you only go by that cheat sheet. And I've heard of coders saying, we have a cheat sheet here because this is what we always do. Well, guess what? Rules change, coding rules change, and a lot of times these codes update. So you're telling me you're still using the same thing that you were using years ago, you didn't even update it? So that's something that you have to think about, guys. It's not about, what is the easiest way, what is the fast way, what is the efficient way? The best way is to learn it slow so that way you can go fast, all right? And again, look around you and be thankful for the things that you have. You got this position, right? They put you in there, and a lot of people are still like, they're all looking for jobs. Oh no, I can't find a job. Terrible resume, or they can't pass an assessment test. And you got in because that's where they put you. So because you're struggling a little bit, now you start to panic. This is just temporary. It's just like when you started the AR job in the beginning. You didn't know everything when you got in there, right? At least with the coding, you had some training. And you had a fabulous team to help you to transition in. So be thankful for that. And don't be scared of Sunday. Don't allow the thought of Monday to rob you of your Sunday with you and your family and your loved ones. All right? Because that's your time. There's plenty of other time to be at the workplace. But don't start doing your work week on a Sunday when you should be having that time for yourself. You can look at other things to decompress, or you can start studying on a Sunday. As soon as you start to feel those worried feelings, pick up that ICD-10 CM book, start reading those coding guidelines. You can download them from CMS. And I'm telling you guys now, I'm not leaving the link. CMS, ICD-10 CM official coding guidelines. The PDF will pop right up for 2023. So you don't even need the current books in order to start reading. And start reading, and that way you can work through those. Work through 5 pages at a time if you want to, and then take a break, and then come back to it the next day, or whatever you want to do. However you want to do it. But just start making progress. And then maybe start working on the workbooks, or work on a chapter at a time. So that way you are using that energy that you would otherwise have if you were just sitting down and your heart's racing and things like that. That energy needs a place to go. And you need to use it wisely, because that's your heart pumping like, oh my gosh, we got to do something. Start reading. Start working through the workbook. Start doing flashcards. Do anything that you can in order to get yourself engaged with what you're doing. Watch videos on YouTube about those procedures, about dialysis in this instance, or interventional radiology. You can watch videos on YouTube about it. So that way you can better understand what's happening. I had to do that when I was coding for same-day surgeries. I got thrown into same-day surgeries the first time by my former boss, who was trying to help my new boss with giving me work assignments. I had gotten off my former boss's team because there was a lot of micromanaging, and I do not do well with micromanaging. And this went on for 18 months. Finally, I was like, no. And I had to stand up for myself. I was like, I can't do this anymore because this is just too much. And when I did get moved onto a new team, of course, she wanted to make sure that I was going to be well prepared for the next clinic so that way I can fall flat on my face. And she knew I didn't have any experience with same-day surgery. So I was like, huh, that's okay. I see how we're going to play this. But that's all right. You know why? Because I said to myself, I'm not going to fail at this. This is not something I'm going to fail at. And even on those Sundays before I went into work, I was not nervous. Do you know why? Because I was watching some of those surgeries on YouTube. I was reading the coder desk reference for procedures. I was looking at the CPT manual. All the things that I'm supposed to do in order to help myself to learn. Because that's what scares us, right? When we don't know something. When we don't understand something and we don't know something, it scares us. But after that, I was like, no, I'm not scared. Bring it on. And so I did really well with same-day surgeries. I was the one who was actually doing a lot in same-day surgeries. And the quality of that work went up, I would have to say, because that's what I did. I put myself into it. I made myself learn about all the things that they had and the different equipment that they use, because that's important as well. You know, coders sort of don't think about that. They read these words, but then they don't really understand like what's happening. What kind of equipment is this? What is the difference? What is a trocar? What are the different positions that they lay the patient in? And knowing all these things can help you with your code selection, because then you're going to know, okay, what was the approach and what way is this? And, what did they do? And how did they get to the site and things like that? You're going to understand those words, but you have to apply yourself. And in my channel, that's what I talk about a lot, is studying. You have to study. We have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. I will always say that because I was the one who said it first, because that's my saying. It's true. We have to be able to read these documents, and people will underestimate us and say, oh, well, they're the coders, they don't know. And I don't like that. I don't like when people say that. So I say, okay, because a lot of people underestimate me, and that's okay, because I always prove them wrong anyway. You can underestimate me all you want to. But I'm going to tell you what, I'll be prepared. I'll be prepared for whatever you throw at me. And that's exactly the way that you have to be. All right. So again, leave your Sundays for your family, for yourself, for your pets or whoever. Don't think about work. And the second you start to feel those palpitations, you get to those books. You get to those books and you start reading. And you get to those workbooks and you start working out in those workbooks. So that way you can be prepared. And that way, when you start looking at those records again, it's going to start to make more sense. And that's the only way you're going to be able to do it, folks. Literally the only way you're going to be able to do it. So I think I addressed everything in here. But again, even though the viewer says that they just turned 50, Thursday's show, I was going to say Friday's show, Thursday's show was about pursuing medical billing and coding later in life. I have to say that I was really touched by all of the feedback that I got from that particular show. People were just pouring in, and there's so many comments, and there's a lot of positivity in there. Blue, I'm over 50, and, it makes me feel good to see other people that are over 50 as well. Yes, because like I said, when it comes to this field, we're all ages and stages and all different levels of education. So with that in mind, don't think that you're alone just because you're a little older. Don't think that you're alone because you've never done this before. You don't have a degree. You just have a certification. Because that's where we all started with just a certification. And some of us just have a high school diploma or a GED and our certification. And that's it. So that's something that you shouldn't think down on yourself about that. It's on you to build your skills. It's on you to say, I'm going to start committing time to study every week so that way I can get more proficient. And even if you're studying, even if you're working 40 hours a week, you can still squirrel in 20 hours. Oh no, Blue, that's too much. There was a saying that I heard today. It was, how how much do you want to, how much investment do you want to spend for your future? And, you know, time is money, guys. And all this running around in circles, not knowing where to go, when all you have to do is just stop and get in front of a book and start studying. And that's all you have to do. And it's an investment worthwhile in you. Because I've suggested it before about reading the coding guidelines, and I actually had somebody write in and say, I want to make sure it's not going to be a waste of my time to read these coding guidelines. Is it absolutely necessary? I was patient. All I said was, it's important. And when you become a medical coder, you'll understand. And that was me really like, okay, I'm being patient. Because I know it is a lot of reading, but those are your guidelines. And those are the ones that are going to be your key to getting you out of a sticky situation in an audit. It's going to make sure that you are accurately picking up everything that you're supposed to, and that you have a leg to stand on when you have a provider in your face asking you, why did you change my code? Because we have to code ethically, guys. Whether you are with AHIMA or AAPC, we all have to abide by the AHIMA standards of ethical coding. And whether you are certified or not, if you act in the capacity as a medical coder, you will follow these rules. And those rules state that you have to be up on these guidelines, and that you have to be up on the latest of the changes and things like that. And that's why it's so important. I'm just saying. But reading those coding guidelines will make you a faster reader. Again, I'm just saying. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope this helps. And leave the scary Sundays or the Sunday Scaries for like Halloween or something like that. All right? Because it doesn't belong anywhere else. I'm just saying. So I will see you guys next time. Bye.